My new book, Awake, Observe, Shape, Transform, is now available on Amazon, along with the 90-day transformation journal. You'll find a link to these things in the episode description. Also, if you'd like to support this work, there are $10, $15, and $20 Patreon tiers with no locked content, just a way to say I value this. You can also visit the site and check out the growing merch store, shirts, tanks, hats, and learn about one-on-one sessions with me by clicking the About button. And don't forget, the YouTube page has the podcast and binaural beats for meditation, rest, and sleep. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. Welcome to the Infinite Spark of Being podcast. My name is Keith Welsh, and today we're talking about an image that everyone has probably seen on Instagram, usually having been captioned with something having nothing to do with the actual meaning of the image. It often gets misrepresented, misunderstood as some sort of yogic fist in the air. It is one of the most provocative, misunderstood, and powerful images in all of Hinduism. It's the image of Kali standing on the chest of Shiva. You've probably seen it. A fierce blue or black-skinned goddess with wild hair, tongue sticking out, a necklace made of severed heads, and a skirt made of human arms, standing on top of a motionless, sometimes ash-covered man laying on the ground. That man is Lord Shiva. In that moment, her standing on him is packed with deep spiritual, psychological, and allegorical meaning. It's not just a cool piece of art. It's not just a scary goddess for your Instagram telling the world how you don't need no man and how your ex is a narcissist. And you'd know that he's a narcissist because you've only dated narcissists, because you've diagnosed all of them with ChatGPT. That's the lowest hanging fruit, and that's not the fruit we're picking today. The image is a mirror, a visual representation of the internal battle that each of us goes through between chaos and stillness. Power and presence, action and surrender. It's about the death of the ego. It's about the part of you that wants control but loses its grip, and then lets the self, the true self, emerge. So let's talk about it. Kali and Shiva, rage, stillness, and the death of the ego. It's worth mentioning up front that, like many ancient stories passed down through oral tradition, the tale of Kali and Shiva will vary depending on who's telling it. Different regions, different texts, different lineages, they kind of emphasize different details, but the core meaning almost always remains the same. It's a symbolic encounter between power and stillness, between ego and awareness. For example, in some versions, Kali is born from the goddess Durga's forehead during a battle, and Kali is an embodiment of rage and divine fury. In others, she emerges from Parvati, Shiva's consort, when Parvati darkens her skin to destroy some demons that can only be killed by female. Some tellings have Kali accidentally stepping on Shiva during her frenzy, while others have it as a deliberate act of compassion from Shiva to lay himself down under her feet to stop her. However the story unfolds, the deeper message is consistent. Awakening happens at the meeting point between destruction and awareness. So today, I'll talk about the story the way I know it, but I encourage you to please seek out the real text. It's not just 60-second versions of the story, because it's the allegory of these tales that brings the meaning into our bones. At least for me, it does. I was introduced to the Bhagavad Gita in 1996, but it wasn't until 20 years later that I was taught the allegory, the deeper meaning of that book, and that's when it changed my life. So, the story of Shiva and Kali. Raktabja was a demon with a terrifying power. They always have terrifying powers. Every time a drop of his blood touches the earth, a new demon just like him would be born. So the more you fought him, the more he bled, the more he multiplied, and the gods were in chaos. No one could defeat him. So Durga, the great goddess, calls forth her most fearsome form, her scariest form, and that is Kali. Kali appears and starts to absolutely tear these demons to shreds. She's unstoppable. But here's the problem. When she slices Raktabja open, his blood spills, and each drop spawns another version of him. So she uses her tongue to lick up the blood before it can hit the ground. It's brutal, it's wild, it's fierce, it works. And that's one of my favorite things about these stories is sometimes they just sound like the lyrics to like a Slayer album. But she slaughters every last demon. But then something happens. Kali loses herself in the rage, in the ecstasy of battle. The fury becomes so intense that she doesn't stop. She enters this kind of divine frenzy, and she's dancing on the battlefield, drunk on destruction. She becomes out of control, and not just to herself, but to others. And so the gods call Shiva, her consort. And what does Shiva do? He doesn't start throwing lightning bolts at her. He doesn't wrestle her to the ground. He lays down calmly in front of her. And when Kali steps on him, she realizes what she's done. She becomes instantly aware. The dance stops. Her tongue falls out of her mouth because she's shocked and embarrassed. I guess that was a thing back then. And her rage dissolves. She becomes still. That's the story. Now, let's get into what this really means. Let's talk about Kali first. She represents Shakti, or power, the creative and possibly destructive force of life. She is time. She is nature. Shakti is the energy that animates everything. She is the force that moves. Shakti is chi. So while she is all of these things, right? Kali represents Shakti. Shiva represents the witness of all of that. It watches the movement. It watches the energy, the stillness. That's Shiva. But you have to remember, Shakti and all of these things transcends gender. When people get caught up in that, they miss all of the juice. They get stuck because they are viewing this non-material spiritual concept through the lens of the material world. So when Kali goes to war, she represents the untamed power of the mind, of the psyche, that part of us that is unrelenting, reactive, passionate, angry, overwhelmed. And remember, passionate means a barely controllable emotion. The Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that passion leads to a lack of remembrance. And we've all felt that version of ourselves. It's the part of us that does before it thinks. Or as they would say, shoots first, aims second. It's that thoughtless aspect of a human that screams, posts, slashes, bites, fights, rages. And listen, that has its place, right? That power, that energy has its place in our lives. That version of us can protect us. It can draw boundaries. It can move mountains. But if it's left unchecked, it destroys everything, including ourselves. And this is what happens when we allow anger, trauma, old narratives to run the show. We become Kali in her frenzy, cutting through everything, even the people and the parts of ourselves that we love. Shiva, on the other hand, represents pure consciousness, not the mind, not the personality, not the ego, but the silent awareness that sits behind it all. He is the witness, the stillness, the one who observes. So when Shiva lays down, he's not plain dead. He's not being passive. He's doing something radically powerful. He's meeting the chaos with stillness. This is what stops Kali. This is what stops you. Not more action, not fighting your thoughts, not wrestling with rage, but stillness, presence, witnessing. When she steps on Shiva, she realizes her true nature. She realizes that she's been lost in the storm, and that's when transformation happens. This is the ripple on the pond analogy that I've used in the past. Kali is when we are trying to pat the ripples down on a lake because we prefer calm water. Shiva represents the knowledge that all things pass, and that's what allows us to sit and allow the ripples to subside on their own. So, this moment, Kali standing on Shiva, it's a metaphor for the death of the ego. Your ego is the part of you that wants to win, it wants to be right, it wants revenge, it wants to be noticed, it wants power, it wants validation, it wants to be in control. And it's not inherently evil, it's just hungry. And it's terrified of being nothing. It's the piece of us that gets scared, so scared, in fact, that it does and says irrational things, mean things. It's the piece of us that wants someone else to hurt the way we hurt. So we say the meanest thing we can think of. Kali is what happens when the ego is running wild. Shiva, on the other hand, is what happens when you let go. When you become no one, just presence, you hold space. When Kali steps on Shiva, her rage doesn't kill him. Her rage kills itself. Because ego can't survive in the presence of the true self, capital S. When we stop fighting, when we witness, when we simply lay down as awareness, the ego goes silent. Not out of defeat, but out of reverence. This is what it means to die before you die. To let the little self burn away so that the big self can rise. Kali standing on Shiva is you in your most destructive moment waking up. And I want to repeat this again and be very clear. This is not about gender. This is not about men versus women. This isn't about women being crazy and men being cool. And yes, Kali is feminine energy and Shiva is masculine, but in the yogic worldview, those are not genders. They are forces within each of us. They are polarities. We just use the terms male and female to describe them. This is no more about gender than a female outlet and a male plug. We all have Kali. We all have Shiva. Rage and stillness, energy and awareness, chaos and clarity. This story doesn't say men are trash, right? And women are crazy. It says without Shiva, Kali destroys herself. And without Kali, Shiva just lies there doing nothing. We need both. Shakti needs Shiva to direct energy. Shiva needs Shakti to manifest. This is what Neville Goddard was getting at with his allegorical view of the Bible, or when he would say the subconscious mind was the female and the conscious mind was the male. The subconscious is electricity, and the conscious mind is what can harness it. And if you're, still getting wrapped up or wrapped around the axle with gender, might I suggest taking a look at why that's where you're going with this, right? I've run into this so many times. If you want to understand this, you're going to have to drop that. Again, you're trying to view the spiritual through the material lens. But my gender is spiritual. I hear you. So good luck with that, but that's not what this is. When the male and female aspects come together, when power is met with presence, that's when transformation can actually happen. So, no, this isn't some ancient feminist revenge fantasy. This is you trying to figure out what to do with all of this power you feel, this pain, this rage, this grief, this thing that needs to scream. You don't kill that part of yourself. Pretending not to be angry and stuffing it down isn't going to help either. You let it dance, but you also lay down your judgment, your resistance, your ego. And when you do, the two meet, and that meeting is sacred. Anger can be very focused and direct when we can figure out the source of that anger, right? However, when it's not, right, when it's not directed, there are neurons literally shutting down in the frontal lobe, making it harder and harder to regulate our emotions and control whatever impulses are coming up. Remember, anger is a secondary emotion, and I say that not to dismiss our anger, but to say that you are experiencing anger because of something. And it's not because they are an asshole, but because you are scared, embarrassed, or maybe you feel less than or unheard. So we have to address that, because that will turn the anger into energy, into motivation. And remember, we're not always angry because of something that someone else did. We can become angry because of our own internal dialogue about what somebody else did. If you have some internal mantra playing on a loop saying, that you'll never make it, you're not good enough, or whatever, then yeah, you can become an angry person. Actually, I'll say this, hopefully you become an angry person over this internal dialogue, because think about what the alternative to the anger would be, right? You've got this like this inner dialogue that's diminishing you, the alternative is to accept that inner voice and become a passive do nothing shit. And that sucks. Nobody wants that. You don't want that. Nobody around you wants that. So, there should be a little bit of, a little spicy anger when it comes to our shitty inner voice, right? Now, I want to get personal because this podcast, this episode isn't just about Hindu myths. It's about you. So let me ask you, where in your life are you Kali in a frenzy? Where are you lost in the bloodlust of your own thoughts? Where are you reacting instead of responding? Where are you fighting something so hard that it's multiplying? Think about that for a second. Something that you are fighting, but it's multiplying. It reminds me of that saying, what you resist persists. It could be an ex, a political belief, your job, trauma, some part of yourself. Doesn't matter what the thing is. What matters is the pattern. And I want to suggest something a bit radical. That suggestion is that you stop fighting. Lay down, become Shiva. When I say lay down, I don't mean give up. I mean stop identifying with the voice that's screaming in your head. Because become the witness of that voice. Like, look at it. Don't become it. Let the energy move, but don't be the energy. Don't be the thought. Don't be the feeling in the nervous system. Be the awareness of it. And when you do, I promise you, when your Kali steps on that stillness, she will wake up. Because you're not here to destroy yourself. You're here to wake up to your power, not be enslaved by it. Not to be enslaved by the energy that creates the urge itself. A lot of these urges that we have can be chalked up to biological imperatives, but the force, the Shakti, the energy of life that the biological imperatives emerge from is what we're talking about here. So, if my metaphor about problems multiplying and all that sounds a bit abstract and a bit vague, or if you're sitting there thinking, okay, cool metaphor, but what am I supposed to do when I'm actually in it? Well, I want to share another story with you. It's from the life of Milarepa, the Tibetan yogi who spent years meditating alone in caves. He was a bit of a rascally fellow. I highly suggest looking into Milarepa. But so one day, Milarepa returns to his cave, gathering firewood, comes back, and he finds that it's full of demons. And not cute little metaphorical ones, but like real ones. The kind that shake your nervous system. Now, he also knows that these are just projections of himself, whatever. But at first, he tried to get rid of them by yelling. He recited mantras. Nothing worked. So finally, he gave up trying to, fix it. He just sat down and said, fine. I'm staying. I live here, and you're not leaving. You can do whatever you want. So in that resignation, slowly, one by one, the demons disappeared, except one. We've all got the one. So he did something very radical. He walked up to the biggest, nastiest demon, the one with the longest claws and the sharpest teeth, and said, if you're going to eat me, then eat me. He stuck his head in the demon's mouth, and it disappeared. So what does that tell us? The demons you're running from, right? The ones that show up as panic, as rage and anger, shame, grief, they don't need to be defeated. They need to be faced, witnessed, held in stillness. You don't heal by outsmarting the chaos, right? You heal by staying with it long enough to see what it really is. Milarepa sat still. Shiva laid still. That's the medicine, not force, not control, but presence. That's how you make peace with that part of you that wants to tear everything down, right? When you get a case of the fuckets, when it gets so scared that it doesn't do anything, right? That's how you wake up. That's how you become awake. So let's make it practical. Let's go over a few things that you can do to they're actionable, things you can do now to kind of get the ball rolling. You can do it today, you can do it tomorrow, right? So first off, you can learn to witness your rage. When anger shows up, don't suppress it. Don't feed it, right? Don't try to talk yourself down or anything like that. Just sit. Just watch. Notice the thoughts. Notice the feelings in the body. Notice the patterns in the stories. And remember, it's rooted in something deeper. Maybe sadness, embarrassment, fear of loss, right? Don't search for that primary emotion just yet. But just know that the anger is secondary, right? That it's not the primary thing here. Let it pass through you. Right? Let it just move over you like the weather. Remember what Pema Chodron says, you are the sky, the rest is just the weather. You are the presence that sits behind the anger and knows that anger's there, right? Just sees it, doesn't have an opinion about it. You aren't the conscious mind that's trying to talk the nervous system into releasing more adrenaline and cortisol. Second, lay down in meditation, literally or figuratively, but let go of control. Feel your breath. Watch your thoughts, feel the body tighten, feel it all come up, tears, shaking, whatever it is. But become Shiva. Lay down under it and just notice it. Remember, you are the presence that is in the room that's just watching, holding space. Just be with the body as it is. Be with the mind as it is in this moment. And third, channel Kali consciously. Anger can be creative. Let it flow into art, running, walking, writing. Write it down, journal it, right? Get it out of your head and onto paper. I promise it works. Hell, if need be, go scream in the car, which I've definitely done, but do it consciously. Don't let it possess you, right? The body loves the adrenaline it gets from anger. It's very seductive. And if you can, sprinkle some self-righteous on it, like, oh my God, like that's a can of Pringles to the body. You get some self-righteousness. You can't just have just one, right? You got to really get in there. And finally, the fourth one, remember the image. Keep the image of Kali standing on Shiva in your mind. Let it be a symbol of your own awakening. Now you know what it means, right? You know the meaning of this picture. You know the meaning of the symbol. Right? And now it can be a symbol of the moment that you stop and become aware. These images are powerful when we use them properly. They're what's called a murti, M-U-R-T-I, murti. And they are a physical representation of the power of that aspect of God. Remember, there's only one God, but these are God's various aspects. So when we implement an image, whether it's a picture, statue, or an image in our mind, it's believed to be a conduit. It's a symbol. Remember, the mind turns everything into a symbol, and the symbols tell the mind what to tell the body, right? And right now, your mind, your consciousness has been given the meaning of Kali and Shiva. So try it. See what happens if you hold it in your mind, right? Remember the story and kind of let it wash over you. So the story of Kali standing on Shiva is not a battle between man and woman. It's not about violence or submission. It's not a warning. It's a reminder that inside of you is a power so wild, so intense that it could destroy everything. And also inside of you is a stillness so deep, so eternal, that it can hold that power in perfect balance. You are both. You need both. And when you stop fighting, when you let Kali dance and you let Shiva lay down, something inside you becomes awake. Something ancient, something holy. This is what it means to awaken. So, next time you feel yourself in a frenzy, remember, you're not crazy, you're just powerful. And you don't need to be ashamed of your anger, but you do need to witness it, right? Let the stillness, let the quiet be stronger than your reaction. Let your Kali step on your Shiva. Let it wake you up. I love you. You reminded me once. You came back for me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If the infinite spark of being has brought you any value, consider supporting the work. And you can do that by checking out Awake and the 90-Day Transformation Journal, both now available on Amazon. The links are in the description. If you want to support this work on a monthly basis, there are $10, $15, and $20 Patreon tiers that have no locked content yet, just support. You can also swing by the website, check out the merch store, learn more about working with me one-on-one, and as always, the YouTube page has full episodes as well as binaural beats to help you with your practice. So I'll see you next week. Thank you, and I love you.